Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk about the newest hero arriving in Arena of Valor, the warrior assassin bug KRIKNAK. I picked up the hero as well as his skin because it's only about 130 vouchers, and I've played quite a few games with him.
An enemy has been defeated. You have defeated an enemy.
In casual and ranked, and in some custom matches and some Abyssal Clash, and I have a pretty good feeling about the hero now. So if you're thinking about purchasing him before the sale is over, if you just want to know more about this hero so that you can potentially counter him when you approach him and when you see him in a enemy's team, this is going to give you all of the information you need to both understand the character, their strengths and their weaknesses, and then anticipation moves that you can make on both the friendly side and the enemy side for KRIKNAK. So he's got a lot of mobility for an assassin, which is an important feature to note, especially on his ult. His passive ability basically just enhances his next normal attack whenever he uses an ability. So he's just basically going to do one skill and then a couple of normal hits, and then another skill and then a couple of normal hits, and that's how he's going to combo off. He's not just going to burst down his abilities and then retreat, but that is a viable option for him in the early and mid game and in the late game as well. His first ability has a lot of range to it. No thank you right now, guys. His first ability has a lot of range to it, deals magic damage. This can be used either to initiate combos because it also tags them to deal additional damage on the next hit for maximum of 8% HP. It also heals KRIKNAK, but it can also be used as a finisher for fleeing opponents. So keep that in mind if you're using KRIKNAK, as you'll see from some of the clips I'm about to show you. I have used it both to initiate fights from the bush or also to finish off, a running Valheim or something like that.
Something delicious before it comes.
His second skill can also chase. It's a directional movement skill which does physical damage, and it also heals KRIKNAK.
An enemy has been defeated. Dominating.
And then his ult is probably his best skill and the one that I find the most fun. He basically jumps up into the air and starts to fly. Otherwise, he's always running around on his feet. And when he's flying around, he's got 6 to 10 seconds of duration based on the skill's level. And then you cast the skill again to kind of dive down and deal physical damage and reduce the movement speed of enemies. In general, what you want to do is roam a lot with KRIKNAK. As an assassin, he has the kind of burst damage surprise potential, but in addition to that, as you're going to see from a lot of the clips, I can get involved as KRIKNAK in tons of team fights, whether it's a full 5 versus 5 or it's smaller, 1 versus 2 or 2 versus 2s. I can turn the tide. I can surprise enemies who think that they have the upper hand on one of my teammates in one of the towers in one of the lanes.
Let's make
Ultimate.
Swarm. Take flight. Crash.
And as well, with any character that has mobility and has good damage, you can push objectives. You can clear lanes, you can go and grab the Dark Slayer, you can go and grab the Abyssal, especially in the early game, by yourself, and you can just zip around the map and have enemies kind of always looking over their shoulder, wondering when this bug is going to fly out of the sky and pounce on them. As far as the inventory goes and the equipment, I tested out a couple of different builds. I first went kind of pure offensive with something like this, and I found that it really didn't work for KRIKNAK. He was very squishy. He would get 2 and 3 shotted by mages and late game assassins and marksmen. And I just didn't feel like I was doing enough for the team. I would still get a lot of kills, but I would also get a lot of deaths. And by, you know, level 12, level 15, I would be trading 1-for-1 with a lot of my enemies, which just doesn't suit for an assassin. You just got to get in and get out and just rack up those kills and harass and just constantly stalk the enemy. So I switched it up and I went mostly defensive. This basically only features one offensive item with Rank Breaker. Rank Breaker is a better offensive armor piercing item, I find, for lower armor characters that will build a couple of defensive items like Butterfly or Valheim. If you have a very defensive team in front of you, like, you know, you have Ormar, Xanis, Zephys, Lumber, you have a lot of tanky characters, switch up the Rank Breaker for something like Muramasa because of that 40% armor pierce. I haven't tested too much with Spear of Longinus, but KRIKNAK's attack speed doesn't ever get high enough to rack up those armor piercings from the unique passive Shatter. As far as the rest of the build, we take the jungling item Leviathan, so you do need to go with Punish as your talent. If you want to go with a different talent, you can. I haven't tested any of them, but both Flicker and the movement boots don't really suit KRIKNAK because his ultimate has so much movement. He also has movement on his second skill, and I haven't tried Disrupt for the tower game or something like Daze for the additional stun. CC is basically the only thing, or hard CC is the only thing that KRIKNAK is missing. He has the movement speed down, but otherwise he doesn't have any forms of stuns or snares or binds. So you could go with that, but in my experience, the Leviathan adds a lot of defense to the character with all the HP. Sonic Boots, of course, is against enemy ADCs. You can switch it up for the Gilded Greaves or the I guess it's just the Gilded Greaves, yeah, that you would want to switch it up for if you can. There's nothing for magic defense, but then we do have Frost Cape for magic defense. We have a bit of cooldown and armor here, and then we have more armor. You can definitely switch up Aegis for something like Medallion of Troy if you feel like there's a lot of mages on the enemy team. You lose 10% cooldown, which could be a bit of a detriment, but you probably won't notice it too much, and the additional magic defense and the bubble especially will help a lot. Sometimes in the late game I switch around Shield of the Lost and Aegis, and then I just use Medallion of Troy instead of the other one. The reason why I like a lot of skill cooldown on KRIKNAK is because his third skill, his ultimate, has such a low cooldown already. It's 12 seconds. So with max cooldown, you can get this down to like 7 seconds, which means you can almost constantly spam this skill and be flying 100% of the time, as long as you have the mana from killing the golem and getting the Sage buff.
Our base is under attack. An ally has been defeated. You have defeated an enemy.
Excelsior.
Enemy bloodbath. Shut down.
And with that being said, you just become a terror. You're constantly flying around the screen. You can pull enemies away from teams who think they can try and catch up to you and kill you. You can try to bait enemies by flying by them.
An ally has been defeated. Oh, legendary! An enemy has been defeated.
And you can just basically position yourself in any part of the map to assist your team. With that being said, KRIKNAK is definitely a character that has weaknesses. He doesn't have a lot of sustained DPS, so if you find yourself not being able to take down an enemy in the first couple of hits, there's a good chance that you should retreat and try again later on. I have kind of overcommitted on certain enemies, Scud or Ormar, and found myself suddenly, you know, not doing as much damage and then getting double teamed or getting stunned and CC'd. Because of the fact that he doesn't have CC, you have to be very wary of mages who can CC you, like Vera, because they can do their first skill, then CC you, then ult you, and burst you down from full health. And that has happened to me, as you'll see from some of the clips, in the late game even. So you do have to be wary of that. You also have to, thanks but no thanks, Congratulations, gold 4. You also have to be aware of your position at all times on the map. Because you have so much of a responsibility as the jungler and as the primary assassin, you need to be constantly looking at the minimap.
An ally has been defeated. You have defeated an enemy. Retreat.
So I think that KRIKNAK is a character that requires an above average skill level and gameplay kind of basics. So if you're just starting out and you're new to the game, KRIKNAK might not be a good choice for you. But if you have confidence, you can move around the map kind of expertly. You know the different lanes and the brush where you can hide, and you can watch the map pretty often to see where your teammates are and get a feel of who needs help versus who doesn't, and then assist them as soon as they need it. Then KRIKNAK could be the hero for you, and you can make some spectacular plays with him if you can manage all of those things.
An ally has been defeated. You have defeated an enemy. Ultimate.
So I hope you guys have enjoyed the review of KRIKNAK with the gameplay elements spliced in between. If you want to catch more KRIKNAK gameplay and other gameplay and highlights from Arena of Valor, hit me up on Twitch because I'm playing it every night after Marvel Future Fight. And if you have any other requests for hero reviews and spotlights that you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. In addition, let me know what you think of the guide and the review in general, if I've encompassed the character and I've captured the feel of the character properly, or if you think I've missed out on a couple of things. Lastly, I want to say that while I did buy the skin, I think it's a pretty poor deal. If you have a lot of extra vouchers, definitely go for it. But although it only cost me about 130, it basically is just a color reskin for the original, and the original looks more bug-like, which a lot of people might prefer given that that's his kind of true nature. But that's just kind of an aside, not something about gameplay. So let me know your thoughts. I'll be reading your comments down below. I can't wait to see what you have to say. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.
Something delicious this way comes.